What if the world we live in was shaped not only by open wars, treaties, and political alliances, but also by secret experiments so dangerous, so morally questionable, they were buried in classified files for decades? During the Cold War, fear drove innovation, and paranoia gave birth to horrifying programs. Governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain weren't just building bombs or training spies. They were manipulating minds, altering biology, and testing the very limits of human endurance. And the most shocking part, many of these operations involved innocent people, without their knowledge or consent. In this documentary, we'll uncover 5 of the most disturbing secret experiments conducted by Cold War governments. These stories are not science fiction, they happened, they were real. And some of their consequences still haunt us today. Let's begin. Dead hand. During the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union developed one of the most terrifying inventions in human history, a secret system known as dead hand. Its purpose was chillingly simple: to ensure total nuclear retaliation even if the entire Soviet leadership was wiped out. Dead hand, or perimeter, was an automated command and control system that could detect nuclear detonations on Soviet territory and automatically launch a counterstrike without human input. Buried deep in underground bunkers, it constantly monitored seismic data, radiation levels, and military communications to determine if a first strike had occurred. If all signs pointed to annihilation, the system would authorize the launch of Soviet nuclear missiles across the globe, even if no one was left alive to press the button. Though often dismissed as Cold War myth, high-ranking Russian military officials later confirmed that dead hand was real, and that elements of it remain active even today. Why would a nation build a machine designed to end all life? Because in a world driven by fear, the ultimate threat of total destruction was the greatest weapon of all. Something terrifying. In the late 1940s, Soviet scientists allegedly conducted one of the most disturbing psychological trials in Cold War history, a sleep deprivation experiment designed to test the limits of human endurance. 5 political prisoners were sealed in a chamber filled with a stimulant gas that kept them awake for 15 consecutive days. At first, the test subjects behaved normally, but by day 5, paranoia, hallucinations, and breakdowns began to consume their minds. By the 10th day, they were speaking incoherently, screaming, then falling into eerie silence, until researchers realized something terrifying. The subjects had begun mutilating themselves and each other, tearing flesh from their own bodies in total madness. When the scientists tried to end the experiment, the prisoners begged to stay awake, screaming that they didn't want to be freed from the gas. Though this story is often labeled a Cold War myth, some believe it was inspired by real classified Soviet research into psychological endurance and chemical mind control. If true, it suggests that behind closed doors, governments were willing to trade sanity for science, no matter the cost. Mind control. In the early 1950s, the CIA launched one of the most controversial and secretive programs in its history, Project MKUltra. Its goal, to develop methods of mind control using drugs, psychological torture, and experimental hypnosis, all in the name of national security. Under MKUltra, scientists administered high doses of LSD to unwitting civilians, soldiers, prisoners, and even mental patients, often without their consent. Subjects were pushed to the edge of sanity, some permanently damaged, others disappearing entirely. In one infamous case, a government employee named Frank Olson was allegedly given LSD without his knowledge, and days later mysteriously fell to his death from a New York hotel window. 4 years, the program remained hidden until a journalist exposed a few documents in the 1970s, sparking outrage and Senate hearings. Even then, most files had already been destroyed by the CIA. To this day, we don't know the full extent of what was done, or how many lives were affected. What's clear is this: during the Cold War, controlling the mind wasn't science fiction. It was a government mission. Dark chapter. In 1957, deep in the Nevada desert, the United States conducted one of the most disturbing series of nuclear tests ever recorded, Operation Plumbob. But what most people don't know is that over 18,000 military personnel were directly exposed to nuclear fallout, intentionally. Soldiers were ordered to march toward Ground Zero after detonations, without adequate protection, to study battlefield readiness. They stood in trenches, watching mushroom clouds rise above them, unaware of the long-term damage being done to their bodies. What's worse, many were never told the full risks, and decades later, thousands would suffer from cancer, genetic defects, and early deaths. Classified documents later revealed that the US government was not just testing weapons, it was testing human limits to radiation exposure. This dark chapter was quietly buried in military archives, but the scars left on those soldiers and their families remain visible to this day. Shrouded in mystery. While MKUltra is infamous, few have heard of its even stranger sibling, Project McCorfin. Launched by the CIA in the 1970s, McCorfin wasn't just about mind control. It delved into black magic, demonology, astrology, and even Satanism. The agency reportedly consulted with fortune tellers, witches, and practitioners of the occult to test whether supernatural forces could be weaponized. It sounds like fiction, but declassified documents confirm bizarre experiments conducted under the cloak of national security, from rituals in hidden chambers to attempts at psychic communication with otherworldly beings. Nothing seemed too far-fetched for McCorfin. Many insiders claimed the program spiraled out of control, with operatives reporting nightmares, hallucinations, and psychological breakdowns. Some even believed they had opened doors that should have remained closed. To this day, the full extent of Project McCorfin remains shrouded in mystery, with much of the evidence erased or still classified. Control the future. What if the greatest threats of the Cold War weren't bombs or missiles, but experiments hidden in shadows, carried out in secret labs under the banner of national security? From psychological warfare and chemical mind control to occult rituals and biological horrors, these covert programs show how far governments were willing to go, not just to win the Cold War, but to control the future. What else remains hidden in dusty archives, buried under decades of denial and classified ink? If we don't question the past, we may never see what's being done in the present. And maybe the most shocking secret is that some of these experiments never really ended.